ClubPod.co, ClubPod.co, ClubPod.co.
Hi folks, this is another podcast for ClubPod.co. That's ClubPod.co. Now, this should be a fairly quick one today. Now, I've always stated, if you're running a podcast, get a website. Ideally a .com. Always try and go for the .com, because a lot of people naturally type .com and it just to me it looks better. If you have anything else, people, you might find you're losing traffic to the .com. So if you had, I don't know, just whatever your name is, .org or .club, .anything, people might naturally type whatever your name is, .com, and if that's your competitor or they're doing something else, you could end up losing a lot of traffic to them. You'd be amazed how many, people have been shocked that they're basically providing free advertising for other sites. So I'm just having a drink. Oh, someone's just texting me as I'm doing it. Normally I don't get texts. So, yeah, let me just say. So, what I would always suggest is get a website. It's not that difficult. Don't be put off thinking this is technical. Don't pay somebody. In truth, anyone can do this, so please don't waste money. I've seen people, and I've said this before, there's a lot of people near me who've spent £1,000, £2,000 on rubbish websites because there's a local firm, because they drive around in BMWs and look very flash, and they say the right things, and they've got nice offices, and they do a bit of a hoo with the experts rubbish. They charge a couple of grand for something that I do in 2 seconds for free. Because it's so simple, setting up a word. I've seen them set up a WordPress blog site, and if you'd be shocked how easy that is. It's basically you press a button and it's on, and you can then just add your own text. And this is all these people do. They'll literally do something and they charge a fortune, and people fall for it. And they get upset when you tell them they've been conned, but they won't have it. I mean, I've told people, businesses, that they're just spending money for nothing, and the site they've got isn't very good. I said I'd improve it for them, but nah. Because they spent £1,000, they think in their head. You see, psychologically, they think, well, if someone charges £1,000, they're getting £1,000 worth of quality. They're not. They're getting something worth about $2, if that. Often they're not even getting a good domain name. I've seen them given terrible domain names, and I've worked out better ones. Anyway, so as I say, the simple one, and by the way, if you ever get a domain name, don't go with the cheapest. People do that and then they end up in lots of problems. Have a good look around, because web domain names are expensive. I mean, they've gone up in price since a few years ago. But I think at most you're looking in the UK at £20 yearly. It's not the end of the world for .com. Some offer cheaper for a beginning. So sometimes you get it for $1 for the first year, and then it goes back to $20 or £20. But the really cheap ones, which you might find that you're thinking, oh, that's great. They are if you're just wanting to bulk buy domain names and not doing much with them. But when it comes to transferring them or doing a lot, you suddenly find it's not as easy. You don't get that. It's often not worth it to save in a couple of pence. I mean, this is and you hear people, they've lost domain names, have been sold. Oh, you hear nightmare stories just because they're trying to save pennies, and you're thinking you're crazy. So anyway, there's a new, well, I don't know how new it is, but I came across from a recommendation this podcasting site. I forget the name, something pod, but I'll put the link below. It's not very good at me, is it? Hang on, I'll look it up before I forget. One moment. Should have had this up and running. Let's see, I'll do it on there. So I've added this to my own site. So if you go to clubpod.co, and it's easier online. If you do it on a mobile, you might click on menu and click on podcast. There we go. PodPage, that's it. I'll put a link in as well, because some people have asked me to add links, so I'm doing the links for this. I think it's an excellent service. This is simpler than even setting up your own WordPress site, because you can opt for the free version, which I think everybody, even if you've got a main site, just do this for fun. You can do it, so it'll be podpage.com/ whatever name you want. Or you can put your own domain to it, own domain name. Now, to do that, you have to pay the monthly. However, if you don't have a website, it's more than worth it paying. There's sort of 3 payments you can do. Well, there's a free one, which I've done, and you get many features on that. You just can't add your domain name, but it's still an amazing system. Then you've got a payment one where there's one for about £9 or $9, I forget, and then one for 15, and you get a few more features. To be honest, if you're doing it properly, you might as well pay the 15, but that's up to you, because it includes things like adding a blog. People, I think even on the £9 or even free one, they can do this, to be fair. People can leave voice messages, so you could add that to your show. You can add a lot of links. It's got the facility to add your social links. Basically, it's an incredible system, and you can go in as, I did it basic, and you could just set it up. It took me about 3 minutes, if that, set up. You just get your RSS feed, which I mentioned in my blog and things before. You just add that, and then you're way to go. You basically add your name, RSS feed, then you can add your social links if you want, such as Twitter, Instagram, all sorts. If you've got things like Buy Me a Coffee, you can add that with these, and there's a few others. And then you can just choose the look of it. There's many options to choose from. Press a button, and that's it. You're live. Now, if you add your domain name, that should be straightforward. Just follow the instructions. It might look more complicated than it is, but it's not that scary. Once you get a lot of these things, you think, it's all technical stuff, but in truth, this was a problem of mine. For the first 10 years when I was doing websites, I didn't do certain things because I thought it was all going to be scary. I didn't run my own website. I was using free host because I thought doing your own website's too scary and too complicated. And the most annoying thing was I found it so easy, and people do. You kick yourself sometimes. It's one of my big frustrations. The things I could have done when I didn't. Anyway, but so I'm just having a cup of tea there. Now, what that you can't do on this site is sometimes you go on these things and you're limited, and you're frustrated because you're thinking, well, you could host your own site and there'd be things you could do. I haven't found anything on this that you can't do yourself. I haven't found anything that you'd want to do that you can't. And it also lists all the Apple and other sites. And in fact, one of the nice things to it, which I actually like, and I'm not sure if it's in the free version, I might actually pay for this, is the fact that people can subscribe to you. So every time you post a blog post, every time you post a podcast, they'll get an email. And that's been something a lot of people have been asking how to set up. And they've been, in reality, there's people who are paying, I think they're paying more for just the email service alone for people to sign up for than this podcast thing. So this is an all-in-one package. The only thing you can't do is, at the moment, I don't think they've any plans to do it, is host your podcast on there. But there's many, many, many hosts that you can post your podcast on. That's not a big deal. So if you're paying, you're going to be, if you're not going down the free route, I mean, you could do everything free. You can host your podcast free, you can use this service for free and cost you nothing. But even if you was to pay, you're looking at maybe $10-15 for this host and maybe around $10 to host your podcast. So if you're looking to finance it as sort of a more pro method, in total you're looking at about $40, maybe less, $20 to $40 probably each month, plus equipment. And you can use stuff you've probably got. I mean, you can use your phone to podcast. Don't be put off that pros. Well, I wouldn't even call them pros. There's and I'll cover this quite a few times. There was an advert in the UK where they had a professional photographer using a basic camera, a point and click one, and the joke was in it, and it wasn't. In some ways, it was quite serious. He could take better photographs with that than an amateur with thousands of pounds worth of camera gear, and I've seen that. Even now, I see a lot of people who've got all the gear who can't take a single decent picture, and I use sort of basic gear, and I'm not even a pro. I'm just amateur, but I know I can take better pictures than most people than with all the fancy gear. And I think that's the same with podcasting. You know all the fanciest gear, but the show can be as dull a dishwash and completely fail, and a lot will because people just won't listen. Because the person doing it is dull or the idea is dull. And you can literally just sit there with a cheap camera phone, one that you've got given to you, record everything on there using an app, and you could have millions of viewers. Just because you don't have the greatest mic doesn't mean you're going to be the worst podcaster. The difference between using your mobile phone and thousands of pounds worth of mic and all the gear is most people won't actually notice. It'll be, unless there's a buzzing or something, and some of this you can get rid of on software, so you can get free software and clean it up. It's just it's marginal. You're not talking about, you see, people are getting mics as if they're in the music industry. If you're a pop star or something and you're recording music, this is when getting recording gear becomes far more important. Because a lot of podcasters will put podcasts out in mono, in the lowest quality they can get away with, just because they want lots of podcasts out. If they're paying for, if they're on a payment system and they're limited to how many, say, maybe a gigabyte of files, or whatever they're paying for, to keep the file number so they can add more files on. If they're doing a daily podcast, they'll reduce the quality just so they can put lots and lots of shows out. And most people aren't going to notice the difference. Certain things will. If you do it too poor, it might sound really bad, but you can get away with, you can experiment, and people do. So don't worry too much. Anyway, that's going off topic. So I'll put a link to this. And I'd recommend either set up a WordPress site and find a house, or these guys seem to be the ideal. I mean, for a lot of people, I think I can see a lot of people using this service, to be honest. So I'll leave that with you. I'll add a link to it in the description if I can do it, and just check it out. You can always do the free one. I mean, I'd recommend everybody do the free version, because it's costing you nothing and it probably get you a bit more SEO traffic, if anything. I don't think it'll harm you guys. And like I said, the free one's great. I'm using the free one, but I'm thinking I'll end up paying for the £9 one, or even the 15, because I've got a domain name that I might use on it. But we'll see. So anyway, I mean, to be honest, I'll be honest, if I hadn't set up this WordPress site that I've got, my main site, ClubPod.co, the look of it, I'd have probably used, if I'd come across this firm, I'd have used this as the main site, because I think it's actually excellent. there's features on there that I've added and don't look as good. If you look at my site, I don't think it looks as good as this free one. But anyway, you have a check it out, and if you don't like it, it's up to you. But you can set up a free account and a free site. What's it going to cost you guys? Might get you more hits. All right then, bye.
ClubPod.co. ClubPod.co. ClubPod.co.